Rectification of errors. Purchase Part 1. So in this lecture we are going to see if there are certain entries which are relating to purchase of goods and these are not recorded properly in the books of accounts, or maybe in the books of accounts, when I say I mean the journal or maybe the ledger, how do you rectify these errors, right? So let's take the first and the simple case wherein we say that purchase of rupees 1 lakh were not recorded. Okay, now this is very simple. Why? Because there was a purchase of rupees 1 lakh which was supposed to be recorded in the books of accounts, but it was not recorded at all. So it was omitted to be recorded, right? But what's the problem? If it was omitted to be recorded, let us record it now. So what is the normal entry that you make when you make purchases? Purchase is basically an expense account, okay? And when you are incurring an expense, the rule is you debit all the expenses. So you debit the purchase account, debit 100,000, and who will be the creditor? Well, we are not given any information here, so we can either write this as to cash, or you can mark it to the creditor's account. So if you were given that the purchases have been made in cash, you will credit the cash account. Why? Because cash will go out, cash is an asset, and a reduction in an asset is credited, right? Or a creditor's account. A creditor again is a liability. When you make the purchases, your liability increases and therefore you will credit the creditor's account. Amount remains the same, right? Let us move to the second case. Purchase of 100,000 were recorded as 1, 50,000, and let's say this time we have a cash purchase, and 2, 125,000, right? Now in this case, what has happened? You had made a purchase of 100,000, but instead of booking it for 100,000, you chose to book 50,000, or maybe you by error you had booked 50,000. So ideally, if it was purchase of 100,000, what is the entry which should have been done? The entry that should have been done is the same as in this case, but it is for cash, so we ignore the creditor's account, right? But what is the entry I did? I recorded it only for 50,000, so I would have instead done the entry purchase account debit, being an expense account, 50,000 to cash account, right? So this is the actual entry that I did because I recorded it for 50,000. So what has happened here is there is a reduction in the debit to the extent of how much? 100,000 is what should have been recorded, but you recorded 50,000. So to correct it, you will again debit the purchase account by same amount, right? And credit to the cash account is also less by 50,000. So you will credit the cash account by 50,000, right? So by passing this journal entry, this is the rectification entry, okay? I have rectified this. Now let us see the third case. In the third case, I passed an entry as 1,25,000, right? So what is the entry that I did? I would have debited the purchase account debit by 125,000 and I credited the cash account by 125,000. But is this correct? No. Why? Because actually the purchase account was to be debited only by 100,000, while I have debited it by 125,000, meaning thereby that I have debited the purchase account in excess by 25,000. So to rectify this entry, what do? I will credit the purchase account to purchase account by how much? 25,000, which is the difference. Similarly, I would have credited cash by 125,000, although it was supposed to be credited by only 100,000. So there is an excess credit to the cash account, right? So to remove that excess credit, what do? I will debit to the cash account by 25,000. And by doing this, my account would be sorted out, right? So this logic is simple. Whenever you have to do a rectification entry, first find out what is the correct entry that should be done. Then see what is the incorrect entry you have made, and see which account has been debited by excess or by less, by what amount. And then according to rectify it, you need to use a debit or credit. For accounts which have been credited more, you need to use the debit route. For the ones which are debited more, you need to use the credited note. Okay?